Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and my favourite show and many of your favourite shows is back. Talking Tactics is back, thankfully, after some technical issues, international break, car issues, all that has been happening behind the scenes. But we've got Gareth back in the show, and we are talking about a victory, Aston Villa 2, Nottingham Forest 1. First of all, welcome back, Gareth. And yeah, another great win for Villa.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, a lot of issues going on in the background, but we're all good now. So we're back. Yeah, I was quite pleasantly surprised, I think. I thought it'd be a lot of a tougher game than what we would have it turned out to be. I think they got it wrong, Forest, to be honest. And I think that really helped us out massively. So, yeah, a win's a win.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about at this stage of the season. So, by hook or by crook, you've got to get them.
And we did. Yeah, we did. Like I say, I think massively, and I think the commentator said it on the TV, that they played not into our hands as such. They just got it wrong, and it was sort of all of us for the first half, wasn't it? And we went into it up and deservedly so, really.
Absolutely. So before we get right into it, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, help us continue on the road to 6,000 subscribers, and get your comments in, your thoughts on the performance. This obviously is a bit more of a stat and data show, so anything that you guys thought analytical wise, please do get involved in the comments. So first of all, the match stats. What kind of stood out to you here, mate, in terms of any of the major stats for the game?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, not a great deal. It's quite even Stevens, isn't it? But we can see, a lot of clearances from Forest, nearly double us. But everything else is pretty much even Stevens, you could say. Quite a few more passes for us. Longer balls maybe for us a little bit more. But overall, you've got to say that's fairly even.
Yeah. And it was one of those where we'll come into it in the shooting and the kind of XG stats in a minute, but it was certainly a game of two halves. You could say, Forest got it wrong, as you said, in the first half. Villa took advantage. Forest changed it and stepped it up, certainly tactically in the second half, taking some more risks. But they did put us under pressure in that second half, and could probably say they definitely shaded the second half in terms of territory and pressure.
Yeah, definitely a game of two halves. I totally agree with that. I think because, like you say, you summed it all up perfectly. They changed it. They were better second half. I think we should have done more. I think we let them back into it far too easily. We stepped off a little bit more. I was sitting with my man watching it, and I was saying exactly the same thing. We're just sitting off, and this is what we tend to do lately. So we need to sort of be better at managing games and adapt to shape changes when we have to.
Definitely. Looking at the passing networks, anything that you noticed about either team here with regards to types of passes, shape of the team?
Yeah, I think Maatsen was heavily involved, wasn't he? I thought he had quite a good game here, Maatsen, overall. So I think that's quite interesting. We're still adopting that left-sided route quite a bit. Right-sided route, Garcia involved a little bit more there. We can see that sort of semi-triangle of four, let's say, and it was a little bit better, but Forest preferred that left-hand side again with, Hudson-Odoi, with Nico Williams and so forth, and Murillo. So a similar sort of approach. They were just a little bit more narrower than us. We tended to spread the game a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Passing sonars, you've got a couple of different ones for Villa, I think. This is minutes 1 to 46. I guess you've got the one later on, but anything you're noticing about particular passes and direction of passes?
Yeah, it's important we include this because this when I plotted the data on this, it was really sort of quite different. So it's interesting to see that on this side we've got Marlon sort of high up on that right hand side. But if you know later on we saw after the substitutions at half time and later on we saw a massive change in the shape.
Yeah, and this is it. This is it. 47 to 94. Rashford and Ramsey right up there on that left hand side.
Yeah, and this was obviously the ploy. They obviously thought to themselves, look, let's switch that side. Let's try and focus a little bit even more down that left hand side with Rashford and Ramsey combining really well, both brought on, and it was sort of it didn't change a massive amount, but it meant that Forest had something more different to think about after their change of shape.
Definitely. And looking at that, and I commented from being at the game, I don't know why he took Garcia off. Maybe Garcia had an injury. I'm not sure because he was playing really well and he was giving us an outlet on that right hand side as well as that left hand side. And Disasi, as good as a defender he is, we lost that impetus going down that right hand side, and it meant that Hudson-Odoi didn't have any defensive duties to think about, and that's what really affected us, I think.
Yeah, it did. It unbalanced the side, didn't it? I totally agree with you. It did unbalance it a little bit, and we were clearly trying to focus even more down that left-hand side with the Matsons, the Ramseys, and the Rashfords. He just wanted to focus it a little bit more down that side, and that was really clear. But yeah, the balance was lost. I agree.
Mm-hmm. A quick look at Forest. This is, again, first half 1 to 46. I think it just sums up what you said about all their play, bunched up on their left-hand side, our right-hand side.
Yeah, they were clearly trying to. That's exactly what they were trying to do down their left-hand side, and it worked for them to an extent, especially in the second half. But I mean, I just plotted the 1 to 46 for just to give them a bit of airtime, really.
Yeah, of course. XG and shot stats. Now, yeah, I guess you can talk to us on this, and I'll give my sort of view in a second. But what sort of stood out to you here?
Yeah, I think a lot of these chances sort of from that left-hand side we can see there. I can't remember who had the most shots on what players, but a lot of it is that down that left-hand side. And we have to be that little bit more clinical again. Even with 17 shots and 2 goals, you're still looking at sort of 5 big chances, again 3 missed. We talk about that nearly every week when we're on air. We talk about that nearly every week. And shot distance is quite short at 17. It's pretty good. But at 2.52, we're trying to get the third goal there, really.
Yeah. I mean, although we were under pressure in that second half, we probably had the better chances, if you like. I think of Morgan Rogers' chance. I think of Marco Asensio's chance. I think of McGinn flashing it across the box. All it needed was a little touch and it was an open net. I think of Rashford's chance right at the end. And that would have settled us a lot more to make it 3-1. And then the players maybe would have relaxed a little bit. But then on the flip side, Forest, they're 19 shots and only 3 on target. They've got to be very disappointed about that because they got into some really good openings, but their shooting was just really poor.
Shying away from that, I think I expected to see the Forest that I saw on Wednesday night against Manchester United, and I didn't see that at all. And I was really surprised, and they just weren't clinical enough. And there were so many chances for them where I thought, oh, here we go. Shot after shot, especially in the second half. They just couldn't finish it.
Yeah, exactly. Little bit of the look at the story of the game in terms of the momentum. I mean, it was a real end-to-end game. So, I mean, both teams trading blow for blow, and fair play to Forest because they really did give it a go in that second half.
Yeah, it I think like a game. If I'm honest with you, Villa started really brightly, 2 banging goals in the first few minutes, and then it's sort of expected threat from those two teams throughout that period of game. It was a game of two halves in every sense.
Yeah. Apologies, we're having one or two technical issues. Gareth is a little bit behind, but so please bear with us. But we're getting through. We're getting through. Expected threat: Morgan Rogers hitting the top of the chart, and Morgan Gibbs White hitting the top of the chart as well. I think that's to be expected, and both players had really effective games. To be honest.
Yeah, I expected it to see it. There was, you've literally got the four most creative players on the pitch, showing high up in from passes as well. And we'll see the same pretty much from the carries as well. So yeah, to be expected.
And there's the carries one: Morgan Rogers, Morgan Gibbs White, Anthony Elanga. Again, showing that what the main players are doing, what they're there to do, really.
Yeah, exactly. They're the creative players within the side, and Morgan Rogers pretty much tops this chart for us week on week. So no surprises for me.
Yeah. Goalkeeping performance. Anything that you sort of picked out here? Matt Sells, some good saves from him. Emi Martinez, like I said, a lot of the shots were wide, so didn't necessarily have too much to do, to be honest.
No, but I think Matt Sells will be quite disappointed with that number. Having sort of 2.74 expected goals on target face and only be able to prevent 0.74. Now we have to be a bit flexible. Of course we do, because some shots are harder to save than others. We know that, it's pretty obvious. But I think he might be a little bit more disappointed with that.
Fair. And then the out of possession shape, average defensive action. Anything you noticed here from either side?
Mid block from Villa, pretty much a mid to low block from Forest. I think they're very narrow on average. You can see Williams on that sort of the left hand side. He's quite deep on average there. So they're trying to be narrow. They're trying to be compact. They're trying to engage us higher on the left hand side there. We can on what would be Forest's right, our left. So yeah, but a mid block from us. I just think we're a little bit sort of too deep at times, a little bit too city offy, if you like. And I think we just need to sort of keep an eye on that.
Yeah. There was an interesting point about 60 minutes in where a couple of Villa players seemed to hit a bit of a wall. And Amadou Onana, Donyell Marlon. I mean, Ollie Watkins wasn't really involved in the game a lot, but he seemed to hit a wall. And maybe that's fitness, form, confidence, a little bit like that. They just seem to all of a sudden just stop running.
They did. And I think we'll see the distance running stats later, maybe. So you will be able to see that.
I'll bring it up.
Watkins
there we are. Yeah.
So there we go. I mean, Matson doing the most of the running for Villa down his left hand side, but some really low numbers. Maybe Tielemans, you could probably say, but for a lot of others, they're quite low numbers from what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, Tielemans is usually up in the 14, 15 kilometers mark. Ian Matson, had a really covered a lot of distance. Mings there, almost 12k, so quite a bit from him. Amadou Onana, like you say, I mean, 7 kilometers in sort of 70 minutes, and I'd or 60 odd minutes. I'd probably say most of that was done in the first 45 because he didn't really go anywhere in the second half, to be honest. So that's something to consider, I think. But as I say, it's something to maybe be expected a little bit.
Yeah, it was. And I think like Watkins just with 1.5k running. What's all that about?
Yeah, that's poor. That's really poor. Yeah, very, very
strikes
poor.
me as it must
10
be some
touches.
sort of fitness issue.
Yeah. Last one now, zones of control. I think it tells us a nice story of the game, I think, in terms of, particularly that first half, we controlled the attacking threats out wide. And then, as I say, Forest were trying to catch us out wide as well, which, again, where both teams have got their strengths and both teams are going to try and attack.
Yeah, exactly that. And I also think sort of we tend to control that our own box, of course, and we tend to control those areas in front of it with Kamara and the two centre backs, you know. So we do tend to do that. And I think when Kamara came on, we regained that little bit of control. The trouble is he was trying to drag a game back from where it had already gone away from us, which was really difficult for him.
Yeah. And I thought McGinn did well when he came on as well, which was giving us a bit more bite and sort of he stopped Ryan Yates from winning those second balls, which was important as well. Going into, again, we're in a really busy period now of games. We've got Paris Saint-Germain on Wednesday night. We've got Southampton next Saturday in the Premier League. Results have gone our way quite considerably this weekend. So looking to build momentum there. And then back against PSG next week. How do you think we kind of balance this up? And have you noticed anything from an analyst perspective about what Emery's doing with the squad and with the tactics?
Yeah, a lot of rotation wasn't there really on. So even though it was a strong side, there was rotation on Saturday. He's obviously trying to prioritise the Champions League. I think it will depend on how we get on Wednesday. If we come away with a really, really positive result, as in a win, I think then we may see changes again for the same team almost for the following game on the Saturday or the Sunday, sorry. So it depends on what happens on the Wednesday. If we come away and we're battered, you know, the tie looks like it's not done, but, you know, is it worth us chasing it the following Wednesday? Then I think we'll see a stronger side in the Premier League. But he's really got a tough balance, hasn't
he? He has. Well, Gareth, despite one or two little technical hitches, it is amazing to have you back on the show. You're going to post all of these visuals and everything else that you do. We are commented before. You've got so many visuals that you produce, which is brilliant. So where can people find that as we are back now doing these shows?
Yeah, sorry, I've started a new job, so I'm a little bit off kilter at the minute. But yeah, we'll post them all on @OneVilla Analysis.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I'm sure we will be back with hopefully a show after the Champions League game. Hopefully we're still in the tie. And then also after the Southampton Premier League game next week, we'll be back. So hopefully again after a successful result. So Gareth, fantastic to have you back, mate. Make sure everyone hits that like button and hits that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 6,000 subscribers. We'll be back later on this evening for our Lions Raw match reaction show covering the talking points from that victory against Nottingham Forest. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.